Good morning, everybody. Hope this finds you well. So today's a really interesting topic for me because I know it's definitely one of the areas that I am consistently working on. I know personally I have blocks around this, and I'm assuming I'm not the only person and that this is going to resonate with you guys as well. So, what we're talking about today is asking for what we want and looking at how comfortable or not we are with that. And even how comfortable are we connecting in with what it is that we actually want. And I'm aware that this can be potentially an even trickier issue for women as well. I think everybody has their areas that they find more challenging, but I think maybe with a certain level of how we're raised and our own nature, and particularly for us all here being yoga teachers, being in a caring profession, our motivations are around making a positive difference in the world and looking after other people. And so it might be really hard for us to get comfortable with knowing and asking for what we want. I think it can trigger within us some feelings around, you know, being greedy or selfish or self-centered. It might be more around that deep down we don't feel we're deserving of those things. There may be a fear of disappointment, that it's best not to want things and then you're not disappointed when you don't get them. Or it may be around scarcity, that there's not enough for everybody, so we're not allowed to want things. So there can be all these different beliefs and thoughts and feelings that we have around things that we want. And again, when I look back to my own childhood as well, and you probably had similar things around, I want doesn't get, be grateful for what you have. You can't have what you want all the time. And again, this might be more to do with, the socioeconomic group that you grew up in. There might have been messages around people like us don't get to have these sorts of things. I know that was part of my upbringing as well. Like all of those things that I mentioned, you may have other things as well. And these are some beliefs that we pick up at a really young age, and they just sit there in our subconscious, quite often directing, and maybe like closing off avenues, without us necessarily being aware of it. So I think it's really useful in the first instance to really check in with, when you say to yourself, oh, I really want whatever the thing is, what kind of thoughts and feelings does that bring up for you? Is it comfortable? I know even doing this talk, there's part of me that's going, oh, you can't say I want all the time, because it feels demanding, it feels greedy, it feels like it might be making me the sort of person that I don't want to be, or like other people I've seen who genuinely are greedy and demanding. But I think the real question to ask, and is what I ask myself, is, why is it so wrong to want something, without the need for justification? Say, oh, well, I want this because actually it's going to be really good for everybody else. But just to want something for the sake of wanting it, why is that inherently wrong or bad? And again, I think that might be something that's really worth sitting with for a while and see what comes up for you, because we'll all have our own reasons. And because if at the core of it, we hold a belief that we're not allowed to want stuff, that is going to affect how we go about our life, how we go about our business. You know, these underlying thoughts and beliefs are going to affect the choices and the decisions that we make, the way that our thinking will operate, the way that we go about problem solving, the way that we may see or turn down opportunities in even an unconscious way. So I think that's a really good starting point of, you know, what are your blocks around this? Because if we don't know what they are, and if we don't start addressing them, we're not going to be able to go into the bigger picture. And, you know, and it's interesting when you look at children, they very often are very connected with what they want in a really innocent way. And I often find that young children can be quite an inspiration, you know, before they've picked up, you know, a lot of these messages or these beliefs or these kind of socialization. And of course, sometimes it comes out in a very, you know, unhelpful tantrum or whatever it is, but the way that they just connect with, but I want that. I want to play with that toy right now. I don't want to do the thing that you just said, or this is what I want to eat. This is what I want to wear. This is how I want to be. And they're not trying to justify it, or reason or explain. They're just really connected with what they want. Sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it isn't. But I think it's really helpful then for us to really connect with what we want. And, you know, this is something that I have found challenging. And it's really interesting how hard something so basic can be. And I think we're not very practiced in really connecting with what we want. Again, I think this is a harder thing for women to do than men. And I'm being very general. And of course, there's huge variety. But I remember listening to, gosh, I don't know if it's a radio show or another podcast, where they were talking about one of the, on average, key differences, say, with men and women is, if you ask men what they want or what they need, they're usually really quick with it. They often, again, generalizing, but you know, they often have a bit of a problem-solving mindset. So they're looking for a solution and they see what's needed. So if they're having a difficult time or they're faced with a challenge, and you say, okay, what do you need? And they probably can quite quickly say, you know, I need this much time, I need these resources, these tools, I need a person for this, a person for that. You know, these are all the things that are required to solve a problem. But if you were to ask them maybe how they feel about all of that, or maybe, you know, what their emotional needs are, that might be more of a challenge, because they might not be so practiced in really connecting with how they feel about the whole situation. And for women, it's often the opposite. We might be really eloquent about all our emotional needs, perhaps, and the feelings that we have about a problem that we're facing or a challenge that we're facing. But we might not be very well connected or clear about what we need and what we want in the solution. And so this might be something that we need to practice a little bit more, you know, asking ourselves, you know, what do I want right now? What do I need right now? What does this, you know, what does this issue or this problem bring that, you know, what do I want as an outcome? And I know for myself, I get sidetracked. So I might start thinking about what I want, but then I get sidetracked by what everyone else might want or need. And so then we're in that situation where our wants and needs start being pushed down the list, because we're then thinking, oh yeah, but that's not going to be great for someone else. So maybe I can't ask for this thing. And so we're not so practiced in really being clear about what is our needs and our wants, and how to ask for them. And this is something that I'm challenging myself with a lot at the moment, in terms of wanting to take the next step in developing the academy. There are personal goals that I have, other challenges coming up. And so, with all of these things, we can get to a point of feeling quite comfortable and feel like we've got through some of our blocks. But then we need to take that next step in our development. And then suddenly you're faced with these blocks again, because you've sort of moved into a new area that's out of our comfort zone. So I think these things never completely go away, they just show up in different ways when we move out of our comfort zone. So again, just as I suppose, a side note to say that if you feel like you've dealt with an issue and it comes back again, it's not a sign of failure on your part or that you've slid backwards. It's probably more a sign of your progress, in that you were comfortable with something to a point, and the reason why it's coming up again is that maybe you're actually stepping forward into a new area that's bringing up your challenges again. So every time we try to expand, we're stepping into new territory, so we're not comfortable there, and so it brings up all of those things again. And so it might be very new territory to think about what you want. And often we can minimize those by thinking about, is it really necessary? Do I really need it? Is it okay to ask for that? But actually, I think our wants, our desires are connected to our needs. And we are in a fortunate position of being in a safe and stable country where our basics, and I would say probably for most people watching this, like our basics of being a human and being fulfilled is, when we think of those hierarchy of needs, it's more than basic survival. And we're allowed to want more than basic survival. And I think this is where it can tap into that sense sometimes of, oh, am I being really greedy and selfish? And is this good for the environment? And all these other sort of shame and guilt that can get piled on to our dreams, to our desires. It's okay to want to have fulfillment in your life, fulfillment in your career, to have meaningful relationships. It's okay to want to be able to express yourself creatively, it's okay to want autonomy and agency in our lives, to have a certain amount of personal power, to make decisions and choices in our lives. It's okay to want adventure and discovery. Maybe you want to invent something, maybe you want to create something, maybe you want to go somewhere. Connecting in with our playfulness and fun and joy. All of these things are human qualities, and we're allowed to want those, and to want to be able to live and express those things in our own unique way. We're allowed to want our personal growth. We're allowed to be ambitious. We're allowed to have dreams. And, you know, I think something for me that maybe helps with a little bit of the mental block is if you change want for dream, you wouldn't say to other people, you're not allowed to dream. That's just being greedy and selfish. When we think about how we would talk to other people about the things that, that their heart wants, their deep, soulful desires, we're allowed to want things. And so framing it in this way and maybe looking at all these different areas, in the course that I teach, and we're looking at, the holistic impact, say, on a cancer diagnosis and treatment on, our students, and we're looking at not just the physical impact, but we're looking in a holistic way. And that might be on using a kosher model. It might be using the chakras as a reference. We can, as I mentioned before, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are also lots of versions of a wellness wheel where we look at these different areas of our lives and, to have this wholeness of what it means to be human, what it means to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. And we're allowed to want that. So I really encourage you as a first step to look at maybe these different areas, if that helps you break down some of the things you want in life. Maybe it's specifically around your teaching business, maybe it's around your lifestyle, your home environment, your relationships, your hobbies, like all of these things. What are your dreams and desires in these areas? What are the things you really want? And it's not until we're really clear about what we want that we can even begin to ask for it, to plan for it. It's hard to get what you want when you're not clear what it is you want in the first place. So I think, looking first of all about what your blocks are, and then looking at, what are the things that you want? Maybe write some of them down. So when you have some time, and I don't know if you have a regular meditation practice or, just your daily practice on the mat, perhaps either at the beginning or the end of that, just sit for a while and connect with what your wants and desires and dreams and needs are. And I find affirmations are really useful. So when you've connected with some of those, make some affirmations around them that can deal partly with your blocks around them, and partly about, this is asking the universe. So this is a way that we can start to practice asking for something, is, really find out what it is that you want. Give yourself permission to want that, feel comfortable with that, and make some affirmations to deal with your blocks. And then ask the universe, like, this is what I want. I am open to receiving this. Wouldn't it be amazing if this happened? What I'd really love to bring into my life is this thing. And on top of that, it's very much like goal setting. So if you're really clear about something that you really want to manifest in your life, we make the affirmations, we ask the universe, and we take some action. And the affirmations are useful in training your mind to look for the solutions, to look for the ways that this will happen. If it's done as a given, like, this is something I really desire, I want to make this happen, we start calling our attention to this thing and saying, well, what small steps can we take in that direction? So we start to make plans. Like, when we have a goal, then we know the direction of travel, and we can start to take those small steps. And then when we're clear about that as well, you can start to tell other people what your dream is, what your goal is, what your needs are, and to ask for help. And particularly, points of conflict and tension that can come up around our wants and needs might be in our home environment, where we're negotiating with other people and maybe with their wants and needs as well. But sharing your dream with other people and asking them to support you in that, and asking for specific help that you might need that allows this thing to become real. So we start gradually reframing the whole thing. And it's really important, I think, and it's valuable for other people that we start practicing this, because actually I think it improves our relationships, because we're clear about what we want. And when we start moving towards that, and we start asking for what we need and start asking for help, then we are more likely to get the things that we need and we want. And so we then carry, less resentment or bitterness or anger. And in fact, we can turn it really on its head and actually start to be more of a role model of showing other people in our family, in our environment, and maybe in the workplace, of how you can ask for what you need, and maybe be an inspiration to our students, that we can be happier and nicer to be around, because we're not carrying all these repressed dreams, unmet needs and desires that are going to start weighing heavy. They're going to affect our mood and how we interact with other people. And again, I think this can be a very classic female behavior, that we have our wants and our needs and our dreams. Part of us feels like we're not really allowed to have them, but they are there anyway. And we then have a secondary need or want, which is that somehow other people will magically intuit what it is we need and meet that need without us having to ask. And so then there can be this resentment of, can't you see that I need this? And why are you not doing this for me or helping me? Or isn't it obvious? And often it's not obvious for other people that, they are in their own world of, addressing their own needs and wants. They're thinking about other things. They may not be noticing. We may be better at masking than we realize. And then it can just come to a pressure point where we might snap, and then we feel really bad. And that just reinforces the belief that it's not okay to want what we want. And so if we just wind it right back and avoid that whole cycle, and make it very clear from the beginning what it is that we want, and in a work situation, this can be very much about our terms and conditions, that you get to decide how you want to run your class. What are your needs? How do you want people to pay you? How do you want people to book? What works for you? You know, we're self-employed. We get to decide, we get to set it up in a way that works for us. And then be very clear about what the deal is. And the lovely thing with it being a business thing is that new people approaching our business, they get to decide whether those terms work for them or not. You know, we're not forcing anyone into anything. But if we don't ask for what we want, like what you might want is for people to pay for a term up front. They book 6, 10, 12 classes, however it is that you run it, that's what you want. And it's okay to want that. So you run things the way that you need them so that it works for you. And just be really clear and upfront and ask for what you want. You know, if we are wanting those things, but preempting, oh yeah, but people are a bit short of money, so they won't be able, or they, you know, they'll think that I'm being really strict and unsympathetic, or that I lack empathy if I, you know, we project all these things onto other people. And it comes back to this idea that we want something, but somehow we're not allowed to have it. It's not possible, or it makes us a bad person for asking. And it doesn't. You know, I doubt anyone here is, you know, completely selfishly motivated. You know, you wouldn't be doing this job if you were. You know, I'm sure we're all motivated by wanting to make a positive difference in the world. And so, you know, take it as a given that you're a decent person. Okay, you're not a psychopath, you're a decent person. You're allowed to want certain things, you're allowed to ask for certain things. And what I have found helpful as well is not only in sort of being clear about T's and C's. You know, for my one-to-ones, I send a reminder, and in the, you know, and actually when people book, in the confirmation email is a statement that I need 48 hours notice for cancellation, otherwise there's no refund, or that it's still payable. So having it there, you know, it gives people a heads up. It's already, you know, on my website. So having all these things up there does mean that you can get to avoid awkward conversations. That's a way of me asking for what I want without necessarily having to verbalize it in a phone call, which I still sometimes struggle with, saying, actually, I need this. So there can be ways around it, but also practicing asking for some smaller things that you want without justifying. And I think this is the challenge, is to ask for what you want without feeling the need to justify it, that you can just ask. And these can be things like, if you're going out to a restaurant, for example, and you might be shown towards a table, but you really want the one in the window or the one in the corner, you know, and just asking, say, actually, I'd really like that table, please. See what happens. You know, you're not being a difficult customer by just asking for a particular table. And these are low risk things to practice asking what you want. You know, it might be, I had the other day, I was trying on some clothes in the changing room and I needed another size. And so rather than, what I'd normally do is kind of get myself dressed, quickly run out, go and get the other thing and come back, was actually asked the shop assistant there and saying, excuse me, would you mind awfully getting this for me in a different size? Because that's what I wanted and I needed, and it wasn't unreasonable. But just practicing sometimes asking for these things that you want, where it's not high stakes. So there's not so much fear and emotion involved in that. And the other thing that I think can be really nice as well is to practice receiving what you want. So this might be around, and again, like, we all want to be sensible with our budget, but sometimes allowing yourself to have the version of something you really want rather than the low cost version or the worthy version or that always the healthy option. Like, every now and again to say, actually, I really want a pudding, and having it and saying, I'm allowed to want that. I'm allowed to enjoy it. I'm allowed to have that. And of course, we use our wisdom and our discernment, we're not going to live on pudding for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but every now and then we're allowed to want and to have these things. That So I treated myself to a new candle because I love scented candles. And what I really wanted was a really fancy one. And I just gave myself permission and thought about my budget to do that, because sometimes it's really empowering and we're practicing that sense of receiving, and sometimes you do get what you want and it's okay, and the sky doesn't fall down, nothing bad happens, that we're allowed sometimes to have what we want for no other reason than it's just really nice. So I encourage you to practice your affirmations, so connecting with what it is that you want, making some affirmations, making some plans around that, and then start asking for help. Start sharing your dreams, and other people may be really excited about your dreams, and you may get the kind of help that you never knew was possible. We don't know what we don't know, and if we don't share what we want and need, then that's it's a more surefire way of never getting what you want. Like, if you don't connect with what it is, if you don't take steps towards it, if you don't ask for help, it's going to be really hard to get what you want. So you might be surprised at how many people might become cheerleaders for this vision that you have. You might be pleasantly surprised by the help that comes your way, of the way that opportunities might open up when you really connect with that and you make it really clear that this is your direction of travel. You don't know how the universe may show up to help you get that. And just to know that you are worthy and you are deserving of having a fully rounded human experience where you get to feel fulfilled in all your different areas of life. Like, we are allowed to pursue that, and it doesn't make us greedy or selfish in any way to want to fulfill and express all the areas of potential in our lives, to bring more joy and abundance and share that with other people. So as a closing thought, dream big, like, have big dreams, share them and move towards them. So I'd really love to hear if any of that resonates with you. And if you do connect with some of your dreams, do share them in the group. We're all here to support each other, and just having that bit of cheerleading, accountability, we can share ideas, resources, contacts. You know, there's so many ways that we can support each other if we ask for help. So yeah, use this space as well. It's a safe group to connect with other people and to practice this, you know, asking for what you want. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. And just before I sign off for today, just a reminder that right now, this week, is the virtual summit of becoming an empowered change maker. There is a link in this feed, and there are 19 speakers from many different disciplines, all talking kind of from a trauma-informed perspective about ways that we can make a difference in the world. So I really encourage you to sign up. It's all free for this week. Afterwards, it will be a paid offering. So right now, if you sign up, you get everything for free. You will get more time to watch on catch up, all the different talks. Mine is happening on Wednesday this week. So very welcome to come and see me on there too. So yes, I will pop the link in the comments. And yeah, do sign up for that because it's just such an amazing resource. And there are some really amazing speakers that I'm looking forward to listening to as well. So have a wonderful week and I will see you next time. Take care.